Hey guys, in this tutorial we're going to learn how to create our own morph sliders in Character Creator. So this is a highly anticipated feature that developers can use to create, blend different morphs together to create really unique characters. Talented developers can, define, develop their own and share them, publish them on the marketplace and the content store as well. So we're going to be learning about how to create those really cool new, like I said, highly anticipated feature for Character Creator. So first of all, let's have our default character on the screen. We just started a new project here. If you purchased the Stylized Character Morph pack from Tokamotion, you'll have this folder here in your projects, and you can see all these stylized characters right here. We'll just go back to the basic one for now, or the root folder rather. And we have our default character on the screen. Let's go ahead and over to our actor item in the modify panel and press reset. We're going to reset our character back to the androgynous base character that we have right here. Alright, so all of these sliders have been reset to 0. Make sure you have show sub items selected as well before you do that. Alright, so to create a morph slider, it's quite simple. All you need to do is go to create and morph slider. There we go. And now we have this category that we can choose. We can choose head, body, eyes, or teeth. And those correspond to the body, head, eyes, and teeth items over here. Then you select the name of the folder section that you want underneath body. So we'll just call this one toon slider, or we'll just call it toon guy for now because we're going to be importing a toon type character. And then the morph name will be your slider name. So abdomen depth over here, abdomen middle. We're not going to call ours that. We'll just call it toon slider for lack of a better name because we lack originality here. But then you can choose your minimum morph value and your maximum morph value. You can keep these at 0 to 100. Or if you want, you can have it a little bit lower, like 0 to 50, for example. You can move this maximum value down. You can move the minimum value to negative as well. Whatever you prefer. We'll just leave ours at the default, 0 to 100 right now. And then you can also add a thumbnail. So your thumbnail is going to be like this one right here. You see for Alethea, the Tokamotion character. I have this slider. Note that I have this slider because I've installed that content pack from the content store. All right, so you may not have this at this point. Let's go ahead and load up a thumbnail. We're going to open an image here. We'll make it a PNG. I have one saved on my desktop here. Kill Skull 64 by 64. Make sure your image is 64 by 64 and select it. I just found that on Google Images by searching 64 by 64 actually. And then we have the option here for a source morph and a target morph. So the source morph is basically when your slider is going to be at 0. So when your slider is at 0, you can use the default morph, which is actually this character on the screen right now. You can use the current morph, which again is this current character on the screen right now. We'll talk more about current morph a little bit later. Or you can also choose a file. We're going to choose the default morph, which again is the default morph after you've reset all these sliders over here. And our target morph, we need to have a target morph to set the value at for the 100 value. So when we maximize our slider, we're going to have a full feature of this target morph. All right, so it's going to be completely full. So let's go ahead and choose a file. Now you have the option to choose an iAvatar or an OBJ. So let's go ahead and open a path. Now I have these characters already created here. These are the Tokamotion characters that you can purchase from the content store. We're going to load in this slim guy right here. So I'm just going to load in him right now. That's from iClone. So if you want to follow along, you can actually go into iClone here and you can find under avatars here, there's a folder called Stylized Learning where you have the Slacker character, Stylized Characters. You can simply right click, find file, and you can use these characters. You can just click over here, Control C in the directory or structure right there and paste it in Character Creator. We're not going to do that right now because we already have that folder, already have everything loaded up here. So let's just go ahead and you can also select Auto Apply to Current Character. If we have that, then it'll auto apply that morph to our current character. So let's go ahead and do that. And we should see the toon character on the screen right now. So this pretty thin, agile looking guy right here. And you can see we have the toon guy item under the body section right here. And we have this toon slider with the ominous looking skull beside it. So if we take this all the way down, we can go back to our default character and bring the slider up. And we can go back to our fully fledged character right here. Let's do that one more time, and we're going to apply a couple of morph sliders in combination. So let's do that one more time. Let's go to Create, Morph Slider, and this time we're going to choose my devil character. We'll just call it devil slider. We'll call this devil guy to keep things consistent. And then we'll just call this the slider devil. All right. And we can change it, like I mentioned again, the max minimum morph values from 0 to whatever we want. 50 if we want something more precise. But let's go ahead and just choose the default morph for the source morph. So it's not going to be what you have on the screen right now. It's going to be the default character that you saw before. And file again, we're going to open, and this time we're going to open this Davos character right here, the devil character. And we can choose, if we want to choose that skull again for our bitmap, we can do so. Again, I recommend a PNG 64 by 64. Let's press OK. And it's going to auto-apply to the current character. So what we have right now is a combination of these two morph sliders. You can see it looks a little bit strange. The guy's mouth is a little bit messed up. We can probably bring this down a little bit. Devil level right there. The devil level will bring that down. And if we bring the toon slider down, we can get something like this. But we can have a kind of stylized character like this by combining these two separate sliders, which is pretty cool. And if we take a look at closer at his mouth, you can see there's a little bit of an issue with his lips. We can probably just grab his lips there and expand those a little bit by clicking and dragging. With the morph gizmo right there, you can see our character looks pretty good. He seems to have sort of a head issue with the back of his head there. We can probably expand his skull a little bit like that. There you go. And we're good to go. So now we have a completely separate character, completely new character from two separate sliders. So what we're going to do now is we're going to export this morph, this combination of two morphs, to OBJ. Now this is a really useful feature, especially for 3D artists. You can use the OBJ as a base. Just make sure you don't change the topology. So when you export it to OBJ, a couple things are going to happen. You're going to have an OBJ key file, which I'll talk more about in a sec. And keep in mind that 3D Exchange Pro is required for this export. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's export this to an OBJ. We're going to go to File and Export to OBJ. And we have this avatar option here. Our x-axis, our axis is going to be Y up. And we're going to choose the full body. Just go ahead and export it. And I have this OBJ folder on my desktop. We'll call it like dude, okay? We'll call it base dude because I already have a base character saved there. Base dude. All right, so we're going to save as an OBJ. There we go. So if I go to my desktop here, I can go to my OBJ folder, and there's my base character. We should have base dude here somewhere. There we go, base dude. I probably should delete all the other stuff. Base dude right here, the material in the OBJ and all the corresponding materials. So let's just go back into character creator here. And what we're going to do is we're going to import that OBJ file as a separate slider now. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to Create Morph Slider, and we're going to choose Body, and let's just choose a Hybrid. We'll call this Hybrid Guy. Okay, and then Hybrid just for the morph name. That's fine, and we'll keep the minimum morph values maximum at 100. Just for the heck of it, let's throw in that PNG of the skull again, and it's kind of getting redundant there. Now, if you want to find the template thumbnail image, I'll show you where to find that in just a moment here. But let's just go ahead, use default morph for the source again, and file. We're going to choose that OBJ file. So on the desktop, OBJ folder, we have base dude right there. All right. And now it's going to, what happens when you export an OBJ file, I mentioned earlier about the OBJ base key. So this OBJ key is going to carry the base morph data. It lets users know what morph is a derivative. DRM protects the base and the derivative. So it's going to add DRM protection to your base. And if you used a base from somebody else to create your derivative content, it's also going to have that data in it as well. So say, for example, you used someone else's base. You use this toon guy base to create your own separate base. Anyone who wants to purchase your new base from the content store will also have to purchase the original base content as well as your derivative. So keep that in mind. And that OBJ key there, that carries the base morph data, like I mentioned, to add that DRM protection for you. All right, so let's go ahead and continue from here. We'll just go ahead and we can apply that to the current character. It's going to look a bit weird because it's going to be like double the strength pretty much. And what we can do now is select devil guy. We can bring that all the way down to 0. We can select toon guy, bring that all the way down to 0, and we have the same character right there. Now, if we take like hybrid guy down, for example, to 0, we can take devil guy up to a little bit, toon guy up a little bit, something like that. This character looks slightly different. If you want to see what morph sliders you're currently using, you can easily go up here to currently used, and it's a little useful little shortcut there. So you can find all the sliders that you're currently using. Like I mentioned, I changed the lip tone right there. I changed the skull depth. So those are the only sliders that I really modified. If I go ahead and just reset all these, it's going to reset everything back to 0, and then we can go to hybrid guy, and we can pump them up to full value right there. And you're not limited to the 0 to 100 level, like I mentioned before. You can actually pump this up to something a little bit larger as well. So, say for example, like the skull, I can expand that skull out further. If we just go into, let's go into actor here and type in skull, so we can find the, whoops, not decal, skull. There we go. Skull depth right there. So if we wanted to, stretch that out even further, we could do that by going to like 150. We're not limited to the 0 to 100 level is all I wanted to really get across there. We'll just leave that at, a decent looking level. That looks pretty normal. And as well, if you go to hybrid guy, take the skull out of the search field there. We can change this to like, 130 as well, and we get more of a hybrid guy. So he has a little bit too extreme here. You don't want to go too crazy with this stuff. Again, it's just if you're ever come across a limitation like the skull I mentioned before. I think we're good to go for now. Now, in addition to going over the limit that you initially set for your slider, you can also do baking and editing your sliders as well. So let's take a look at how we can edit our sliders first. Let's go to Toon Guy right now. Say, for example, we don't want this Toon slider anymore. We can go over here to Edit. And we can change all the values. For example, right here, if I wanted to change this from 0 to 50 instead, I can do so. Change the max morph value to 50. Everything else will stay the same. You can click here and change the source and target morph, which we won't do right now. If we just selected replace, we don't want to apply this currently to our character. So now this Toon Guy slider, we can max it out at 50 only. So if we took hybrid down, Toon Guy up, it'll max out at 50. So we won't have as an extreme as an example as we did before, just a character with slightly larger eyes, kind of like alien looking eyes. Alright, so let's bring hybrid back to full level right here. And we can also go ahead here and instead of editing, we can go to our settings, which is this little icon over here, and we can find the file. So this is going to be your CC custom slider. This is one of the files that you're going to use to pack into your content packs when you publish it in the content store or marketplace. This is the kind of source file. You need to pack the custom sliders, which we'll talk about in a separate tutorial anyways for publishing. But then you can also go ahead and just delete the slider as well. You can click here and just delete the slider, which we don't need that slider anymore. We have hybrid guy, so we don't need the base sliders anymore. We'll just go ahead and delete the Toon Guy slider as well. And now, see for example, like I mentioned before, you want to give your character some sort of extreme proportions. For this guy, let's focus on his nose. So say for example, we wanted his nose to be really big for some reason. What we can do right now, if we just searched in go to actor and typed in nose, we can just grab his nose there, and you can see the nose bump level right there is going to 100. We can change the nose depth right there to 100. But then we're like kind of limited. The nose bridge depth right there, we can change that as well. But then we're kind of limited. So all these are already maxed out. Now we can go over, like I mentioned before, we can go to like 150 for example. But one kind of cool thing that you can do is you can actually bake your morph sliders as well. You can do that by going up here to the little bread icon and baking the morph sliders. And that's going to basically reset everything back to 0. And then you can continue on with that same procedure of expanding the nose again. We can bring it out even further now, over to 100, and take the length out like that. And this bridge, we can increase that. We can bring it down like that as well if we want. This is kind of looking a little bit strange, but we want to try to bring out his nose and then stretch it down. We can bake it again, and let's do it one more time for good measure. We're giving this guy a really whacked out nose there. All right, you can see that we've really exaggerated that nose by baking it a few times. So you can do the same thing for the arms. If you want to stretch out the arms to their maximum level, you can get really super long arms. But we won't do that in this example. We'll actually shorten these arms a little bit just so they don't look so long. We'll make them a little bit less lengthy there. And that's just showing an example of how you could, really exaggerate his nose. We're not going to keep this nose that we currently have. What we're going to do is I'm going to actually just load in a separate project now. I'm going to show you how you can use current morphs. We're going to talk about current morph now. So let's go over here to our projects clothed. I'm going to use the Stylized Learning Resource pack here, this slacker character. We don't need to save our current project. We already have the hybrid guy slider. That will remain as long as we don't delete it. Even if you close down Character Creator and open it up again, this hybrid guy will still be here. Alright, so we've loaded up this slacker character right here. Now say for example you wanted a family of slackers. You wanted like, this guy to have a sister, a brother, a tall younger cousin or something like that. In this case, what would be useful to do is use the current morph that I mentioned before. So let's go ahead and create a taller cousin for this guy. So we can go over here to create morph slider. Again, we'll just go ahead and call it taller cousin. All right, and we'll just call this cousin slider. I have no idea about a better name than that. So let's go ahead and just keep these at the regular values here, the minimum morph value, maximum morph value. We won't worry about the thumbnail right now. However, if you do want to find the custom thumbnail template that I was mentioning earlier, you can go over here. Let's go to hybrid guy, for example. We'll take this nose out of here and go to settings, find file. Now your path may be different, but generally most of you will have this iClone program and templates. You can go to character, creator templates, and there should be a folder called image. And in that folder, you should have a thumbnail template blank. I'll double click that right there. So you can just add your little thumbnail in there, just like this. That's the template image that you can use for your thumbnail. It's a little handy tip there if you ever want to use that. You can Photoshop your own little picture of your character in there. But I kind of prefer to use the skull and crossbones. So let's go ahead and continue on with the current morph. Okay, so now we're going to use the source morph as the current morph. So what you see on the screen right now, this is going to be our base morph. This is going to be our current morph. So if we had this, base morph and we wanted to create a number of different stylized characters around this guy, we can go ahead and do that by leaving the source morph at the current morph, which is the one you see on the screen right here. And then we can go and choose a target morph file. Let's go to open path, and let's go back to that iClone path again. I'm just going to quickly right click find file. This is normally the fastest way just to find the directory. Control C. Again, yours probably will be a different directory, but you can just go into your iClone, right click and find file. You can Control C this directory structure right there, and then go back into Character Creator and just click in here and Control V and press enter, and you'll find these guys right here. So like I mentioned, we have this in the Token Motion pack. There's this Peter character who's a pretty tall, thin, young looking guy. We'll just double click him and he will be the target morph. So now we're going to basically create his older cousin, or younger, taller cousin, I guess. And let's just go ahead and press OK. We'll have a taller cousin slider appear right here. So now we have slacker, and we have his less slack, taller, younger cousin right here, with very similar hair. And you can go ahead and add in like another one. For example, if we took cousin slider all the way down again, and we had hybrid guy selected, we can create morph slider. Again, current morph. Let's call this one female, or sister slacker. All right, and let's call it sister slider. All right, and file, we'll go to open, and we'll just load in this bunny character. So this will look a little bit strange, but if you wanted this a bunch of characters with the same style, you can go ahead and do this. Now we have this sister slacker right here. We can create a female version of this slacker guy, which may look a little bit strange. I think the taller cousin looks a little bit better. But that's how you can kind of create a family of stylized characters based around the same base style. Something like the Croods, for example, that DreamWorks cartoon. Alright, so now what we're going to do is combine all of our sliders together and export. So what I've done now is created a new project, and we have our hybrid character maxed out on the slider, and we're creating a third slider. And the target morph, we're going to load in this Winston, the old guy of the crew. And we won't auto apply the character right now, we'll leave that deselected, and we'll just create that new slider. So we'll combine all these three sliders. Now we have like a sort of a kind of a taller, more intimidating looking guy with a longer nose. And we can, bring him up like that. Now this guy might have a problem. If you combine, different morphs, you may have some unexpected results like this right here, where the eyebrows, the developer of this character has hidden eyebrows within the head. And you can see because the head is so deformed, those are now showing. So we can, again, fix that by doing the same thing, leveling out the skull. And just going in here and typing skull. Oops, not in the body. We'll go to head there. So our skull depth is already maximized. So we can just enter in a value of something like 200 there, and that should take care of it. We have a nice smooth skull once again. So this is a combination of the toon character, the devil character, and the old guy character. So you can see a limitless number of combinations that you can have for your character, and you can go ahead and modify this guy even further. We've maxed out his chest there. We go type in chest. See chest width. We can enter in something like 200 and give him even a wider chest. And then he has those long wiry arms. Let's kind of shorten those a little bit right there. There you go. So we have a character like this. We can give him a little bit more strength in his neck there if we want. And there seems to be a little bit of an issue on his chin there as well. So we can go ahead and fix that out by expanding his chin. Let's bring that up. Let's bring out his lips there. There we go. All right, we have to bring his chin there. Okay, everything looks pretty normal, although this guy is very, very stylized. He has a really low brow there. We can kind of raise that up as well. Bring the head back. And you can do all sorts of different modifications with your character by blending all these, using all of our different morph sliders in Character Creator and importing in your own. Now, one final thing that I want to take a look at is you'll often come across a problem with characters with extremely large eyes like this guy right here. And if you want to test out your character's eyes, how they're going to function, you can go ahead and just press this eye button right here, eyes open and close. And you can see this is what my character is going to look like when his eyes are closed. They're not completely closed because his eyes are so large and the eyelids can't cover the eyes. Now to fix this, you need to actually load this character into 3D Exchange. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can load it into your modeling program and you can fix it that way. There's an easier way to do it by loading it into 3D Exchange. Now to do that, you need to save it out as an iAvatar right here. So we'll go to Export iAvatar. We don't have to worry about the skin and body right now. We'll just go ahead and press OK. We'll just call this test guy. Let's call him iGuy. Okay. Let's keep the naming a little bit more relevant, and we'll go ahead and save that to our desktop. And then we can go ahead into 3D Exchange, which I already happen to have open here. And let's go to File, Open, and we should have iGuy appearing on our desktop. There we go. So we'll load this guy in. Alright, so there's iGuy. So in order to get the eyes to close properly, what we can do is go over here in the Modify panel to the right and go down to the Expression Editor under Face Setup right here. So select Expression Editor, and don't worry about that big white bone in the middle of his head right there. Let's zoom in on his face here and take a closer look. We need to go to the Muscle tab right here and Eyes Blink. So you can see that's the way his eyes are going to blink. That's not really how normal people blink. So we need to go down here to Eyes Blink Left, Eyes Blink Right. And both the eyes blink. You see, right, currently it's at 100 because we have Eyes Blink selected. So let's go ahead and change that to something like 130. Still not enough. Maybe 160 might be okay. Still not enough. Let's try 180. There we go. All right, that's good enough. So that's what our character is going to look like when he's blinking. That's just like an easy fix. You can exaggerate that number right there. Make sure you press the Set button after you're finished, and you can close that down. And then what we can do is we can load this, export this character into iClone now. So let's go ahead and export him to iClone format. Let's just do that quickly. Export geometry. We'll keep him the name iGuy. Let's save him to the desktop actually as iGuy. And we'll just overwrite the current iGuy. There we go. And then we can load him into Character Creator just to give him some clothes. So let's go ahead and do that. File, Import, and Desktop. There we have the iGuy that we exported from 3D Exchange. We don't need to save this current project. Alright, so there's the iGuy that we just fixed, and we should have it fixed right now. If we click the eyes, there we go. We have the eyes closed now. Perfect. So we can go ahead and give him some clothes. Why not? Let's go to our clothing over here. Maybe give him a nice pair of jeans here and a quick shirt. And maybe even a little hair. We'll just use the typical short hair here. There you go. So now we have our completely stylized character. We can bring him, we can send him directly into iClone by clicking this button right here, Send Character to iClone. And let's Alt-Tab over to iClone here, and there's our character all loaded up. We can press the J hotkey to focus on his face right there. And we want to try and use the slash key to kind of bring the light over here a little bit. There we go. And then we can go ahead and test out our character's facial animations. So he's a fairly, extremely stylized character. So you can go to the motion tab over here to face puppet. And we can choose like a Christian profile. Let's just use something like that. All right, so here's our character. You can see those eyebrows are really deep, and we can have the character smiling. It's a pretty thin mouth, but you can see smiling right there, different expressions. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. There's his angry look right there. All right, so you can see that the facial animation works fine in iClone. So that's really about all there is to it. I just kind of wanted to show you guys the example, the way that you can load in your own custom morph sliders. And again, you can export these as OBJs. You can take them into Max or Maya or ZBrush, whichever program you use. You can modify them. Like I mentioned, just make sure you keep the same topology. If you modify the topology, you're not going to be able to load it in as a new morph slider because it will be incompatible with the source model. Alright, so thanks so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned a lot. Make sure you check out our forums at forum.reallusion.com, and I will see you next time.